Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. A lot of uplifting news this news cycle, but it's been a common theme. I guess the lesson to be learned is when you elect someone with dementia, maybe the news isn't going to be all that great. So anyway, we start off with another intelligentsia. AOC, she went to, what was the event, Dr. Lopkin?
It was the Met Gala.
There you go. Someone that was a bartender 2 years ago, now she's going to the Met Gala. She wears Tax the Rich, kind of like a play on Chick-fil-A, and it's gotten some pushback, hasn't it?
It's gotten a lot of pushback because I don't even think she realizes how much trouble she's in now.
In what way?
Well, she was given the ticket to the Met Gala. That's a $30,000 ticket. Congress people are prohibited by law from accepting any gift with a value more than $50. She did not pay for the dress, which is another way over $50 gift. She is in violation of campaign finance laws now because she wanted to make this idiotic statement.
So idiotic's an operative word. The only problem I have is if it was a Republican, yeah, they'd be screwed. She'll pass. She'll get a free pass.
Well, we'll see what happens. But more than that, she's being called out again because she is an abject idiot. Because she went on Twitter and she was talking about the dress designer that she worked with, this immigrant dress designer who fought her way up. The dress designer in question immigrated from Toronto.
Oh, God. Yeah, no, she's an opportunistic. We talked about it all the time. Socialists / ultra liberals. It's do as I say, not as I do. They're phony, Bernie Sanders, the list goes on. It's really, she was a bartender making, $70,000 a year on a good day. And now she's enjoying every moment. It went from not being about any kind of cause. It's all about her. She's never done better.
It is all about her. And in fact, when the recent hurricanes hit, she made a big deal about, her grandmother lived in the hurricane and, where was help for her? Meanwhile, she's driving around in a Tesla. Her own family has publicly stated, no, she does not speak for the family. She does not represent any of us. So she is being dismissed by her own family.
Thank God for that. And by the way, I have to hearken back to she was on it was some show I was watching, and they had a snippet of her on CNN talking about the abortion law in Texas. And instead of saying, women is going to be against women, whatever, that's fine. It's your opinion. That's fine. Unbelievable. I just shook my head. Liberalism has gotten to this point. She goes, people who menstruate, this is against them. In other words, this whole shtick about
people who menstruate. Good.
Yeah. It's not about in other words, so this whole thing about transgenders and all that, it's hard for me to even keep track of it. So if I think I'm a woman, the logic dictates. And again, liberals are all about the science. So if Mr. Sherman thinks that he's a woman, then guess what? Something magically, I can menstruate.
Right. Let's follow the science. Gender is measured by an XX chromosome or an XY chromosome. It has no bearing on how you dress, how you act. And when actually the psychological Bible is called the DSM-5. And in the DSM-5, this is actually considered a mental illness. Getting the surgery to alter your appearance to match the gender that you feel like does not change your gender, but it is considered a treatment for this mental illness.
Well, isn't it really go to the fact, and I honestly, Rush Limbaugh, God rest his soul, whatever, probably listened in the last 10 years, maybe a half hour of him, just because that's the way it is. I remember I was walking and I happened to tune into him, and he was talking. I think it kind of in some ways sums up modern day liberalism. It's something that used to be on the fringe. Like everyone, gay rights, nothing's wrong with it. We've already discussed that. That train has left the station. Anyone who's against gays, I mean, come on, welcome to the real world. Hello. But now, so they opened the door to that, which is more than fine and probably, should have been done years before. Gay marriage, all good, right? But then it gets into, all these other things. I can't even keep track. So it starts out fair enough. And now it's gotten to the point of like, really, men can menstruate. I mean, a little.
Right.
It's,
the whole thing with transgender is if somebody wants to get surgery to alter, their appearance, go for it. They have every right to. They feel more comfortable as a different gender. Dress how you want. Do what you want. It's your business. Nobody should be telling you not to. However, when it gets to the point where it's somebody identifies and they haven't taken any hormones, they haven't had any surgery, they just identify as female. They're still a male and they need to be treated as such.
Thank you very much. Lately I've identified as a millionaire, but
yes.
I don't see any change in my bank account.
That's it. I identify as a billionaire. I just haven't gotten paid yet.
Well, it's coming, believe me. Okay, so you had the another situation where Biden's mic, now it's just out there, it's not even leaks, that his team is cutting his mic off whenever he leaves the podium. That's a little scary. I mean, it doesn't shock me anymore, but it's a little concerning.
This wasn't even leaving the podium, though. They cut him off. He was telling a story about how he was going to go work for Boise Cascade, which is a manufacturing firm in Idaho, which, by the way, has publicly stated they have no record of him ever interviewing there, no record of any job there. He was just making this story up.
Hold on. Just take a step back. He's a lifelong politician. He's never left like Delaware, and there's no way he's going to Idaho. It's never happened.
Right.
He's a big bullshitter. He's done that. So I remember when I was in Philly in 1988, he was running for president. God, talk about being delusional. And he just lied. Then they really actually had a press, said he graduated in the top 5% of his class. He had 3 degrees, none of which were true. Not to mention his plagiarizing. I think it was Winston Churchill, really genius.
Yep.
So they cut off his mic.
They cut off his mic mid-story because clearly they know he does not have the mental faculties to talk without a teleprompter. He cannot be trusted to stay on script. So now they've got somebody manning the microphone, turning it off so people don't hear what he's saying. So the question is, who is in charge? Because it's clearly not him.
Oh, he almost admits to it when he says, they told me.
Yes.
I can't take. Who's they? It's a very scary situation. If we really had an actual press in this country like CNN or like, remember 60 Minutes actually used to do investigative journalism that was somewhat balanced. Those days are over. And, as we talk about the Biden administration, we're talking about Blinken, another has-been from the Obama administration. His list of accomplishments are really far-reaching, and I say that in completely sarcastically. Everything, he's got the reverse Midas touch. Everything he touches turns to shit. And obviously the evacuation is just a part of that, but they're having the hearings, and even, believe it or not, Blumenthal, okay, our esteemed senator, was critical of the situation.
Oh, yes,
Shocking.
there has been no lack of bipartisan criticism on this Afghanistan debacle, which is good. But it was revealed earlier today that in a closed-door session, Blinken actually said that The military told Biden that this was going to happen months before, recommended that they leave people behind at the base, which Biden ignored. So the idea that Biden has said, no, everybody was in lockstep, they all agreed with, no, nobody agreed with him, and he ignored everybody. The buck stops with him. As idiotic as Miley is, as idiotic as Blinken is, the buck stops with Biden.
Well, Biden talks a mean game plan about that crap, but he goes, yeah, buck stops here. And then he proceeds to blame everyone, including Aunt Jemima. It's like, what? You know, or his 8th grade teacher. It's like, stop it. Yeah. He's a coward, and he's always has been. I actually do partially blame his wife, the esteemed doctor. She knew he had dementia, and she let him proceed with this shenanigan.
Oh, absolutely. What was his family thinking letting him run? It's ridiculous. But you know, the big thing that the Biden administration is trying to hide behind is the Trump treaty. That, oh, we were locked in by the Trump treaty. Here's the truth of the matter. And folks have actually read this treaty on television to point this out. The treaty stipulated that none of this was going to happen unless the Taliban negotiated with the Afghani government to form an interim government. The Taliban never did that, so the treaty was already in abeyance. Biden was not locked into anything.
Well, like he was locked into the Keystone Pipeline. Hello. What a bunch of BS that is. Then you have General Miley Cyrus, and the genius of the century, absolute Mensa candidate. It was interviewed for a book, I believe, by Woodward and someone else, and admitted that he had discussions with the Chinese saying that he was going to tip them off if Trump proceeded with any kind of military actions. I believe that is treason. We went from George Patton to General Miley Cyrus, the woke general. It sums up America's decline in a nutshell, doesn't it?
This is treason. And it's not just implicating Miley, because the book goes on to explain that he did this at the behest of Nancy Pelosi. So both Pelosi and Miley are guilty of treason while she was trying to impeach Trump.
And there'll be nothing said about that, I'm sure. We did have speaking of Trump, because I think it does relate, we did have the Newsom recall, looked a little precarious or positively for a while, but then you did win in a landslide. There is no recall. And they really used as a wedge issue Trumpism. And there's some editorial comments saying maybe that's that could spell some trouble for the Republican Party, especially if he's either indirectly involved in a big way or actually does run. What do you think?
Actually, I don't think it bodes any way for the Republican Party. California is a special kind of crazy. Trump never had any shot of doing anything in California. And they basically made this whole thing about the Republicans trying to take over and the Trumpites trying to take over. No, this was about massive homelessness, a massive economic failure.
And someone also, I love this, looks something right out of Central Casting, good looking, tall, perfect age, but is a complete empty suit. And some people talk about white privilege. Well, he's a perfect example of that. I think he's connected with the Pelosi's, never probably worked a day in his life, probably went to a great Ivy League school, dumber than rocks and incapable of changing someone's oil.
And let's take a good look at what actually went on during the recall. Okay, the leading candidate other than Newsom was Larry Elder, an African-American radio host. Larry Elder was attacked on the street by a woman wearing a gorilla mask. How much more racist can you get? Mainstream media ignored it. Nobody said a thing. If he had been a liberal, everybody would have been up in arms about this racist attack. And yeah, oh no, he's Republican, he's conservative. It's okay to attack him. It's okay to be racist against a conservative.
Well, it's actually true. Yes, it is true, sadly enough. Also, this relates to General Miley Cyrus, blinking, Biden. North Korea just launched a second missile attack aimed at Japan or the Japanese area, and looks like that cat's out of the bag. And what scares me is you've got a dumbass in the White House. Things could miscalculate, and we could be in a hot war.
Yeah, if you were worried about Trump starting a war, you got to be a lot more worried now because nobody takes the U.S. seriously. We can threaten anything we want. Nobody is going to believe us. Nobody cares. Our allies are not working with us. Our adversaries have been strengthened.
Actually, our allies, so-called allies, are actually reading the tea leaves and starting to make overtures to China, talking Western Europe. So
it is
elections do have
ridiculous
consequences.
It's absolutely ridiculous how far we've fallen. The consequences of this election have been enormous. And anybody who says, "Oh well, Trump was a fascist," no. You are looking at the definition of fascism because Biden was told that his administration did not have the ability to remove the stay in Mexico order. He did it. He was told his administration does not have the authority to extend vaccine mandates. He did it. He was told that he did not have the authority to extend the eviction moratorium, which came from the CDC of all places. He did it anyway. He has exceeded his authority over and over again without regard to consequences. This is the face of fascism.
Well, the only thing I find I will disagree with you on is when you say he, I don't think he's doing anything. I think there's powers to be. He's just the front for now until he completely flames out.
When I say he, I'm referring to his administration because clearly he's not in control. As we said, when they cut the mic and he keeps saying, "I was told not to take questions." So obviously somebody is pulling his strings. And thank God there is one man willing to stand up to all of this woke bullshit, all of this left-leaning destruction that they're trying to rain down on the country, and that is Senator Manchin.
Oh, God. Yes, he is. I don't know what his future is in the Democratic Party. He will not vote, he says, for the $3.5 trillion of bullshit, but he will, I think, do the 1.5. He's got more ho-hos than people, than these some of these Republicans in name only, like Romney. I trust him more than I would Romney.
Yeah, Manchin understands what the consequences of these bills would be. The consequences of all of the ridiculous spending that's going on. And let's be fair about this. The Republicans do their share of ridiculous spending as well. This is not a partisan problem. This is a political problem across both parties. But Manchin is standing up to this ridiculous overreach in spending. And thanks to him doing repeat statements on this and Biden's ever falling popularity, there are now moderate Democrats in the House who are coming out and saying, no, we're not we're not going to do this.
My prediction is if this fails, which increasingly it looks like it might, and combining that with Biden's performance in Afghanistan and in other areas, including his proposed biggest tax hike in like the last 50 or 60 years, I see the quickest one and done administration. Your comment?
Oh, he's definitely going to be one and done. There's a
no, I don't even 1 year. I'm talking. I mean 1 term. I'm talking 1 year. Goodbye. Like he's a lame duck before the midterms.
Yes, they have been talking about the fact that he is already a lame duck president into his first year. And you mentioned the tax hike. Let's talk about this tax hike, because the biggest lie in this tax hike is, oh, they're going after big corporations. They're going after high earners. No. There is a clause in this tax hike that gives the IRS the ability to check your PayPal and Venmo accounts if you have more than $600. How is going after a gig freelance worker that made an extra $600 going after big business and rich people?
Because it is exactly this, Dr. Lopkin, and I'm glad you mentioned that. There's a complete reversal of fortune. Good movie, by the way. And that is that the Republicans used to be the Thurston Howells, the country club Republicans, and the Democrats for the blue-collar working man. That is completely flipped on its ass.
It has. The Democratic Party does not care about the working man.
They could give a shit.
And despite their claims of socialism, AOC, the Squad, Sanders, they don't give a damn about people either. In fact, they go out of their way to flaunt how much money they've been making on the backs of the American working public.
Just like socialist Russia, there's really no difference. And kind of on that same way of thinking, that same vein, there's a recent poll just came out. 60% of Americans think we're heading in the wrong direction. Only like 29% think we're doing okay. And those are probably just die in the world liberals. 29% think we're going in the right direction. That's Jimmy Carter-ish.
Yes, it is. And honestly, though, I think Jimmy Carter was a much better president than we have now.
Not even close. Not even close.
I mean, Carter had a disastrous presidency. There's no doubt about it. But Carter was, one, honest to a fault. I mean, if he said something, you could take that to the bank.
And I think he loved America.
Yes.
I'm not so sure the people behind Biden could give a rat's ass about America. It's all Nancy Pelosi. You think she gives a shit about American exceptionalism? She cares about her own bullshit fiefdom. She came to Washington worth $300,000, and now she's going to exit it, hopefully sooner rather than later, worth $30 million. How does that happen?
Yeah, it's
a banana republic. That's how it happens.
It really is. Carter definitely cared about the United States. He cared about the working people. He cared about Wall Street and he cared about everybody as Americans. These clowns we have in Washington right now, the only thing they're concerned about is their own power.
No question about it. Little doom and gloom. I believe you have a happier story to conclude on.
There's been so much doom and gloom over the last couple of weeks that we've had to cover. This came across my inbox, and I love this story. And it shows what America is really about. And this is a story about Chris Jackson. Chris Jackson is an African-American custodian at Unity Grove Elementary School in Locust Grove, Georgia. This is a hardworking man who's been walking to work every day, miles, because he could not afford a car. He did not have the ability to raise the money. Well, the folks at Locust Grove Elementary decided they were going to take care of this. And the teachers went out, they raised money, and they bought him a new car. And you can see the video online, how grateful he is. He throws up his arms, says there is a God. He was so thankful for
you
folks.
summed it up, though, Dr. Lopkin. That's real America. Real America is not racist. Real America has compassion, and real America is about people like this custodian who doesn't look for handouts, is not looking for the dole, but walks to work and does a hard job every day. That's America. Is that not correct?
Exactly. And that's what we need to keep in mind, that the folks that are appearing on the news, the folks that are in Washington, they are not America. Folks like Chris Jackson, he's America. Folks like the teachers that banded together to help him out, that's America.
Agreed. Well, another great edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm glad we ended on an optimistic note, because it is a little gloomy out there, Dr. Lopkin. We thank our listeners, and we're almost on every access point for podcasts at this point, aren't we?
We're pretty much everywhere. You can find us each week, as well as the rest of the Xvadio podcast network at xvadio.com/podcasts. You can also find Carnivore Bites on the Carnivore Radio website, as well as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, across social media, and wherever you find podcasts.
Thank you, Dr. Lopkin. Thank our listeners. We'll be back next Wednesday. Take care.
We'll see you then.